Hi, everybody. Hi. My name is Adam Henderson. I'm one of the co-founders of Superflux. I'm standing up here because I'm also a board member of the Brewers Guild, and I'm going to take a moment to introduce your speakers today. So, I lost it. Hang on here. So, Jenelle Motz, on the far left, is a driven, competitive, detail-loving label enthusiast. Jenelle is all about bringing her passion for packaging to the exceptional brands she works with, a rock climber, a passionate birder, over 100 birds by sound alone. So does that mean you can identify just from sound over 100 birds? Whoever wrote it did a great job. And a big idea generator. Jenelle is always looking for the next big label technique to master, industry to conquer, or project to bring to life. As a label solutions manager at Summit, where branding meets innovation, a little sales pitch, Jenelle spends her time partnering with our brands and creativity, providing rocket fuel in the form of really great labels to help their clients reach the next level of success. Don't believe me in this case, or us. Check out the one-of-a-kind sellout glitter label she helped inspire. I'm interested. Leif Miltenberger, how many birds do you know by sound alone? Two birds. Is a managing partner at Hired Guns Creative. Leif speaks on branding and packaging design at craft brewing conferences across Canada and the US. I'll leave them to it, and we've got like 40 minutes, but I think we can go long because it's just beers after this. So maybe we don't go long if it's just beers after this, but I'll leave it to you guys. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. So now that we know that I like birds and labels, off we go. So Leif and I haven't presented together before, so we're gonna make it work as we go along here. I really want to provide some value that you can take with you. So we're gonna go over the things that we can accomplish with labels, and then Leif's gonna talk about the artistic design side. So slides. Cool. Rough. All right. So just our starting place, we're going to kind of start where we all know and we're comfort and just keep working our way up. So I don't have a whole lot to say about white BOPP. This is the place where standalone art really shines. You know, it's just going on a white base, matte finish. Our job is easy. We just print it, run it off. So realistically, it really comes down to the designer you're working with and what they come up with. So I'll hand it off here.
Yeah, we're big fans of white BOPP. And metallic BOPP, which somehow snuck onto this slide on the sessions one there. White BOPP just gives us such a great hit of bright color on a can. Obviously, it's something that the people on the brewing side love because it performs really well on a lineup, on a canning line, and when it's wet, you know. So honestly, such a fan of this stock, just from the design standpoint. The next one we're talking about is silver BOPP, and this session's one should have been on there. So I'm just going to talk about silver BOPP for a sec. I hope that's okay. Also fans of that metallic BOPP approach because it allows us to simulate a foil on a label without actually having to lay down a separate foil. So we can, actually, if you want to skip back just a sec there. Yeah, so like the sessions one, it allows us to, the metallic BOPP allows us to simulate a foil or simulate an unprinted can, which is what you see going on there around the skeleton guys. Okay, so maybe I'll switch back to you for a sec.
This is going to be great. So going into the metallic BOPPs, this is where we start to have a lot of fun, and there's just so much we can do with this that doesn't necessarily get utilized. So one thing that we typically see a lot is it used for silver, used for gold, which we love. Don't get me wrong, love to see the hits of foil. It's like the cost-effective foil, but I also love it in colors because it just creates so much more movement in the label, and it just creates different levels to it as well. Because as you get into the colors, especially printing digital like we do, when you're playing with CMYK, the more black you have mixed into that, it's going to be like a lower level of metallic. As you move into like higher contents in CMY, That's when we get more metallic. So you're just going to naturally have a gradient start to like filter through that, which is really fantastic. Another like place where I really like to see it used. So this one, they just knocked out the white plate. So we just created a pattern purely by playing with the white ink underneath. So we didn't change any colors. We didn't do anything. It's just that same like straight orange color. And then it's just knocked out underneath. So it becomes metallic. You get a little bit of darkness in it from the silver, and you can create really interesting patterns that way. And that's something I think has been largely underutilized just because it's not something you necessarily think of, because you have to like, pick the right colors too. Because if you go dark colors on this, you're not really going to see it. But if you hit it with the light colors, you're going to get an awesome effect like this.
And then knocking out is, I can tie that back in a bit to the simulated foil effect. You know, when we started out designing alcohol packaging, it was with wine labels, and we started out using hot foil and offset printing, all those old school sort of techniques. But we got into using foil for fine details, and inevitably run up against technical considerations where the details that we want to print in foil or wanted to lay down in foil were just, they were too fine. And BOPP lets us just knock out details like on that Twisted Tradition one, on that logo there, shout out to Phil. And it also allows us to print over top of foil to simulate not just a solid foil, but like that crown on the Legend Sevens one there. It's more of a, I don't know how to describe it, but it's not just a hit of gold.
Yeah. For sure. So another place we can use it to, so playing it again with the white plate, you can actually create gradients with it. So it's not all or nothing when we play in metallics. We can do like 30% white, 20% white. So what we've done a lot, this is Blind Man Brewing in Alberta, on this series, what we did with their designers, we just kind of set one up for them for what that would look like. And they really started playing with it. So you can create even more movement through your labels this way by hitting up areas that are more like the most metallic, and then you pull it back down to not being metallic. So again, just creating a lot more movement. And these are things that are really easy to accomplish because we're not doing anything special. This isn't anything additional on top of our like metallic label. This is purely just a function of print. It's still your metallic BOPP, matte lamb, or gloss lamb label. And you can just, there's a lot of room for play here that we don't necessarily think about, because often we're like, well, we want this metallic and we want this not metallic, and that's where it ends. So just know that there's room for like more movement. There's more we can do with it to really like punch it up. So then we're going to move on into kind of the next step up. So another really cost-effective way here that we can play around is with the custom die cuts. So these are really great because it's just kind of a one-time fee. Not awesome for like every project if you don't want to take up that cost. But, you know, when we're looking at, say, like $350 on top of your label cost, you can really play around here, and you can do fine details, or it opens up like a really big space to play with that gap between the labels as well. And you can really turn that into a function of the art piece on the label and make it not so that it's kind of an annoying gap that some of you don't like to see because you like that seamless sleeve look. And you can really play it into your label and make it just a piece of art, truly. Like we have someone in Alberta as well, like Blind Man Brewing again, they do the river cut. So they have a full river cut down their label. So it really just becomes like an iconic piece of their labeling.
That just made me think of a couple examples of that I didn't even put in here, but about where the label wraps are on the back and custom die cuts can be used to create a shape where they meet, like you're talking about. It wasn't on ours, but Spectrum. I don't know if you noticed on those cans, they've got an S, but where the labels meet, that's kind of cool. I've seen ones in California where it's the shape of the state formed by the two labels. I'm waiting for somebody to do that with BC. I think they could do that. It could work as well. So we are humongous fans of custom die cuts. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I'm a little disconnected on this. And we do them ranging from very simple shapes, like this one we did for Nelson when they hit their 30th anniversary. Shout out to Nelson. And also, sorry, excuse me. I like starting out new clients with a simple custom die shape. Because it gives them a chance to make sure it applies smoothly on their line, you know, which is really important because some decisions made around custom dies can cause massive problems on the line. This is what we did for a brewery in Alberta called Siding 14. When they launched, we designed one dye and they elected to use it for all of their labels. And I'm a big fan of this approach because when you're building a brand, you can try and own different visual things. You can try and own a color, but it's really difficult. You know, you think of little Tiffany boxes with their teal blue color. That's one example. It's not a lot of beer, though. You can try and own subject matter of your labels, but anybody can swoop in on that unless you're trademarking absolutely everything. You can try and own illustrative or graphic design styles, but again, that's pretty easy for other designers to swoop in and do the same thing if they see something that's working. Shapes are something that I think not enough breweries try and own. And I'm not saying this is the most amazing shape ever for a die cut label, but when they launch new beers and they're consistent with the rest of it, you know, it's pretty easy to tell what brewery that new beer is from. And I think that's something that not enough people think about. This is going to jump around a little bit more and show some more of the more adventurous die cuts we've done over the years. This is a two-part label we did for Longwood for their barrel-aged series and their sour series that they released a few years ago. The bottom portion is consistent across all the beers in each series. So those cans get labeled a whole bunch at a time, and then they print the top bands and apply them as needed. Bottom label actually wraps around the can twice to get that effect of the diagonal stripes there. So here's how it looks when it's laid out all flat. So yeah, like I said, they applied the bottom label to a large batch, and then they had to make some tweaks on their line to make sure that the top labels would then get applied at the right spot as the can's rotating. So, you know, so it's not beginner level, it's sort of intermediate level here for sure. You know, a little finicky, but I think it worked out really well for them. There certainly wasn't anything like that in terms of the shapes out on the market. We work in wine and spirits as well, mostly beer, but more and more in spirits. And when we got the first chance to do these beautiful Driftwood Spirits labels that printed by Summit, we kept going with the crazy die cuts that we'd been doing for them over the years. Now, these labels are hand applied, so we didn't have to worry about keeping a vertical leading edge, which you'll see in some of the other slides coming up, because they're just literally one at a time being taken off and put on by hand. That may change if they scale up these products later on, but for now, they were fine with that. Yeah, just more examples of the, you know, totally weird and wonderful dies. SOB, when they launched, there's another example of creating a custom die and sticking with it and trying to own that shape. Later on, they switched over to cans. They did not elect to go with a custom die at that point for their labels, but they did keep that same shape. You know, it became a foundational element of their brand. A lot of what we know about how to create weird and wonderful die cuts came from the stuff we did for Driftwood, starting back in 2014 with Sartori Harvest there. That first one, you can see that one's not very complicated, right? We're just kind of testing the water there, seeing if it worked with their brand aesthetically, and also just make sure it would apply on the line smoothly. But the dies started to grow pretty wild, pretty quickly. There's a couple in here that I have edited the dies for our social media posts and our portfolio, so they're not actually accurate to the real world ones, like the Naughty Hildegard one there. It needs that. In real life, it has that vertical leading edge that all of the others do, just so it comes off the line smoothly. But I just like the way it looked for our social media. Oops. Yeah, sorry, my notes again on this. I'm jumping ahead of myself with my notes here. This is more examples of the crazy dies that we've done for them. And the 20-pounder one was a favorite with the knocked out section in the middle. Knockouts are something I'll talk about a little bit later on. They're not very common, but they can be really effective. All of the examples here I'm showing you from Driftwood Bomber labels. could have worked on cans, I believe, and still could, as labels. There's no real reason, other than the fact that they went for sleeves when they moved to cans. If they had gone with labels, I think we would have continued with a lot of these dyes, adjusting them for shape accordingly. Okay, I'm just going to keep going with some inspiration of die cut label shapes that I've seen from other markets, stuff you guys might not have seen, or maybe not paying as much attention to. This is from Coda Brewing in Colorado. You know, they've got this tall, somewhat narrow front label with that shield kind of shape there. I like how they keep consistent with their branding and their embellishments all around it, kind of using it as almost like a picture frame, changing out the illustrations. I think that would really help, like I said before, when they launch a new product, to get that quick recognition of like, oh, that's my favorite brewery and they've got a new beer. I'm gonna go check that out, you know. This is Flying Machine Brewing from North Carolina. They're not quite as rigid with their dye, their adherence to one dye, but they just still all kind of look the same. They've got that top point and the bottom point, consistent branding layout. And again, you can imagine walking through a store and seeing one of these, and if you're familiar with the other stuff, you'll instantly know that that one's from the same brewery. This is a fun example. This is a brewery from the UK called Sure Shot. They're from Manchester, and they have one die cut shape that they use religiously. And it's kind of a, I don't know if it's super easy to tell here, but it's kind of like a sideways S or a fat snake. I don't know what to call it. But they'd use this religiously, and they change out what's inside the die so that it is the rest of the design of the label. It's crazy. It's all different for everything. But that die, having that bit of silver can popping through at the same place at the same time always, I think really makes it easy to identify their stuff. And one final example here. This is, I don't know how to pronounce this, brewery. It's a weird spelling. It seems Dutch or Belgian or something. Brewery West. They're from San Pedro, California, and they really stretch out into some weird places when it comes to die cuts here. A lot of their labels are made up of you know, 10, 20, or a couple dozen round single medallion labels that are layered on as the can has gone through multiple rotations on the line. We were just talking before here. I have no idea how they're doing it, to be honest. Jenelle thinks they're very small and doing it on a little hand applicator, and that could be the way. I don't really care too much for this purpose, because I'm just trying to inspire and show off some stuff that just could get people thinking, you know. This is one of their examples, that the first one that caught my eye, and it looks like it's printed on a clear backing, but it's not actually. Yeah, and it's boy, it's a weird, fun effect. You know, that would catch my eye in a store for sure.
All right, next step up. So now moving into the realm of variable data, there's just so much we can do on this end. So in this instance, we've got the sunrise to sunset progression, which is really stunning. And they put a different story on each one as well. So it really had a lot of like consumer interaction into it. But that's just one way. And I think we get stuck in thinking that like, oh, okay, I have to now like provide 12 different designs, 14 different designs. But we can do so much more beyond that. Like this is one realm to use it. We can do sequential numbering. If you have something that's like really limited release and you want to get that feel of like, hey, this is one of like 1,000 bottles we're putting out, we can do sequential numbering on that. We can also do a lot of programming techniques with the equipment we use. So we can, you know, switch out colors, we can move images around. So as long as you're setting up in like appropriate way with your designs, which we can like help you with and guide you with if you want to do this, we can make sure every label looks a little bit different just with programming techniques. So literally you just need to browse one file, depending on what we're doing, maybe like a seed file to pull from for different patterns, colors, etc. and then we do the rest. So it's a lot easier than being like, okay, well, I need to come up with 14 different designs, 20 different designs. And then every can is a little bit unique. And I think that's really special. And then something else that we've only used once so far, we can also do frame variable data. So that's, we take a video that you provide. It just needs to have the same aspect ratio as to where we're putting it on the label. And we can take every frame from that video so that you have a video play out across all your labels. We can take every third frame, we can take every fifth frame. Which is really fun, especially if you're applying it in-house. You can set up a camera, just videotape it going through, speed it up, and you just watch this video play out across your cans. You can share that out to social media. You can include a QR code on there so people can watch the full video, but there's just a lot of fun to be had there, and a lot of play in variable data, which is really exciting, which isn't only limited to providing X number of images and we rotate them through.
This is one example of a variable data campaign that Coke ran a few years ago. It was tied into a Share Coke marketing campaign where they printed off zillions of different names, and you would find your friend's name in the cooler and share the Coke with them. I don't see variable data used very much on beer packaging at all, and I'm not quite sure why it is. I just don't think people think about it enough when we're working on their label designs at this point. But it seems to me like the ability to print something unique on every single label is something that people could have a lot of fun with if they just sort of slowed down during the design process and thought about it. Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a bit of skill to weave the meaning into your brand. Why are you doing this? I'm not just talking about bottle numbers, but I think the results could be really good. Oh, that's me. So next up is variable design. So similar to variable data, but the actual visuals are changing. It gives you the opportunity to have a unique design for every single can. This is an example of a run of Absolute bottles from a few years back. This actually wasn't done with digital printing. It was they made machines to decorate the bottles like this, which was crazy. But it's the same concept. The designer set basic principles, parameters, like which colors should be used, sort of which kind of splash patterns, that sort of thing. And at the end of the day, you get a unique bottle for every single one. One other example, this is from grocery, Nutella. Yeah, this just takes the chaos of the current craft beer shelf and just ratchets it right up to the next level. This is an example from a magazine cover using variable design. So there's one big one down there on the left. On the right, you've got a whole bunch of them laid out. Each cover looks similar, but in fact, they're all unique. They have that same capital A shape, but the details and colors that make up that letter are different for every single cover. It's pretty fun. This is the cover of a promo brochure from a design college. The designer here created a modular system that generated over 40,000 unique covers for this brochure. And you can see the similarities and differences in each one looking at them. But again, they all look related. They all look like the same brand. And I think that's pretty nifty.
Okay, so we're going to do another material here, and then I'm going to move into some embellishments. So we have holographic material. So this is going to be your next step up from metallic BOPP, from the variable data. It's definitely a bit more of a premium paper. This one's one where we can have just a lot of fun. I love leaving it open. We suggested that they knock out the little fireworks directly to the holographic. So when it catches the light, it really shines off in that firework area. But also you can see that it definitely comes through on the color. So by printing a light color, you're going to get that holographic rainbow shimmer right through it. One thing you want to be in mind when you're considering if you want to use a holographic, we have to do a gloss laminate on it. So just keep that in mind, because in my opinion, and I think it's the right opinion, some colors look a lot better with gloss than others. There's definitely colors like purple, like light blues, that show really well with gloss, whereas some other colors, when you get into the darker schemes, maybe not as much, and it's also not going to be as great of a fit for the holographic unless you're leaving wide areas open, which if you're playing in this realm, I definitely recommend having open areas to the holographic so you just get that full rainbow effect and not just letting it kind of rainbow through the color, just to, again, just utilize the material to its like fullest potential there. Then moving into spot gloss. So this is kind of the most cost-effective embellishment that we do. I really like it for the most part on dark colors, just because we can really create that contrast, that matte to gloss contrast, which looks really nice. On this one, there's no print underneath the glossy areas. We just like lined it up around the text and off we went. So you get a lot of like good contrast there. Same thing on to this one. So just with the lines moving through, just because like I find when you use it on lighter colors, you don't get quite the same contrast. So if that's something you really want, if you really want to see like that matte gloss, like differentiation, I wouldn't recommend necessarily doing it on lighter colors just because it gets lost a little bit in the light colors. That being said, there's a few labels where if you have like all dark and you just want one center light area, I would definitely recommend looking at that because it can really create a beautiful look. There's like one label, I'm not sure if it's fully released yet, so I can't mention it. There's one label I really, really love that we just did a spot gloss on a light area surrounded by black, and it looks just so sharp. But otherwise, I typically recommend that people do it over top of dark colors. And then moving into high build. So this is like the spot gloss now raised. So we get a texture on the materials as well. This is how we mimic embossing on can labels, because obviously we can't really be embossing films because it's not going to hold. You're going to waste your money. It's going to go right back to flat. So we do this with a textile varnish. So it can be used in a few different ways. So in this one, we varnished all the different metallic areas. So everything was raised. And then also you get like a really punchy metallic. A gloss metallic versus a matte metallic definitely looks different. So in this, you really get that contrast of that metallic against the matte, which is really great. And then you get that raised effect as well when people pick it up. And then one of my favorite ways to use high build for sure is creating patterns. I think we all know this label. You pick it up, feels like a basketball. It's really fun. I love seeing it used to create textures. Like Tofino Brewing has their labels where it feels like surf wax over it. So it just, like, people pick it up and you just feel that difference. Same with like Coast Mountain with their POW label, with the snowflakes. It just creates a really interesting consumer experience. And like, as soon as they pick that can up, you know, you have a much better chance that they're going to buy it. So this is like such a good way to use it. Now going into a realm that I personally love to play in. I sold a lot of these into Alberta just for my fun little projects. I really love stickers on labels. I think we all love stickers. We all know everybody loves stickers. So this is just a realm in which we have the 2 layers of material. We're cutting out these sticker shapes. And there's a great realm to play in here where you can really Easter egg underneath the sticker because we're printing on that lower layer. And sometimes people forget that we can put whatever you want under there. We can variable data under those stickers. So if you want to send people on like a QR code adventure, 100%. How many QR codes like do you want to generate? Do you want to populate? We can rotate those through and send people on like some sort of Pokemon Go adventure if you want. And it's just all in the name of like getting people really invested in your brand, really seeing like what else, if there's like a prize at the end, whatever that looks like, just getting them to like consume more. And also then they just show up on social media. They show up on people's fridges. They kind of live on forever.
Bikes, bumper stickers.
Yeah.
Coffee mugs.
Whatever you can put a sticker on.
Really underutilized. Very nice.
Yeah. So then this is another one we did. I really like to when it leads off of an edge, just because it's a lot easier to start peeling that way. So if you can incorporate it to the end of your label, I think that works really well. Just like I've never had a problem peeling them, but I have nails. Sometimes when you don't have nails, getting the like peel started, not as easy. So if you can run it off an edge, it just makes it very simple to grab it and get it going. And then we can also do a slightly different method. So this one is one I did for the Alberta Unity Brew. So what we did is we printed a bunch on this top layer, and then we just stripped all the top material away from the stickers. So it is a lot easier to peel them off. So on this one, we've got 13 different stickers that peel off of this label. They've got the QR code underneath. They put little like gems of phrases and hashtags and whatnot underneath them. And people really loved it. Like it kind of hit on social media. Everybody just like was really excited about this one. And also just glitter. There's glitter on it. People love glitter. So it just really pulls people in. People really want to buy it. They want to have it. It's really interactive. So moving on to fluorescent inks. So this is another realm we play in. So we were lucky enough to be the only Canadian digital printer that HP selected to beta test their fluorescent inks outside of pink, which they will always carry. Unfortunately, they decided to not go ahead with it. However, we purchased all the remaining inventory of the fluorescent inks that they have. So we have the rest of it until it runs out. So this is kind of fun to just play with. I don't know how many people have black lights, but it looks really interesting and people really like that. There's one that Blind Man did where it's like connect the dots, and they did 14 different variable data connect the dots with fluorescent inks, which I suggested that they sell like black light pens with it as well. So you just like throw it under and the design shows up. So yeah, lots of room to play there.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about holofoil. This one is a cannabis project we did during the sort of gray market time period when the government had announced that it would be legalized, but had not come out with the packaging design restrictions. It was a beautiful time for designers. Sadly, it's gone. Why I love holofoil is it reflects different colors back at you. And as you take a object with this on it and move it around, you see different colors, and you see this in the pictures there, right? So it's just wherever the photographer had the light source, it's giving you different colors there. But the really oh gosh, these are sorry, okay, my slides are out of order. I'm going to shift to a slightly different holofoil example of one that Jenelle mentioned before, of when you're using this. It's nice to have bigger areas that are knocked out completely to the foil. So this one was printed on a stock with a pattern in the holofoil, repeating pattern. I find those ones can get a little cheesy sometimes if they're not used judiciously. So we just like to use them in small places. But you can see the name of the beer there has got that repeating pattern. And, you know, it twinkles at you, and it's kind of magic. This is one of the first beer labels we ever did for Longwood when they opened their production brewery. It was Stoutnik, and again, it's got that holofoil stamp on the beer name. And when it's on a curved surface, I find, especially on a curved surface, and you put it on a shelf, like say in a liquor store, and you walk past it, that color changes as you walk past it. So it's kind of like it's beckoning you or jumping out of the shelf towards you a little bit. And it's like we got motion onto a beer label, which is hard to do, and I love it. Yeah, there's the, so sorry, Stoutnik, take me to the next embellishment that we want to talk about, which is embossing. Like Jenelle mentioned, doesn't happen much on BOPP because BOPP just doesn't hold it very well. This is more of a wine label kind of a stock. So what we did with this one was we combined the holofoil with a story all about the beer, which was told in Morse code and blind embossed onto that. So if you look really closely, the dots and dashes there, they're kind of like Braille, like they jump off the stock a little bit. And then we convinced Harley to get the bottle sprayed black just to complete the whole picture. Shout out to Harley if he's here. Aside from having a neat little Easter egg about the beer in the label that most people had no idea was there, I think more importantly, embossing allowed us to get texture onto that beer label. Because like Jenelle said, like I've seen studies about this where if you can catch somebody's eye and they'll pick up the product and you watch them touch the label, they'll run their hands over the texture. They don't even really know they're doing it, or they'll trace the dye line with their finger. And if you can get them interacting at all like that, there's a much greater likelihood that they're going to actually purchase the product. Oh, sorry. Next slide is just the close-up details of that embossing. Another example from a distillery client, Arbutus in Nanaimo. This Baba Yaga absinthe was in a sleeve, and on the far right, you can see the label in the sleeve is like this crazy toothy grin. It had these fun silver and green foil teeth with ridges embossed in them. It's a little hard to see in the picture, but again, it's just, you watch people play with the bottle when it's on a table, and it was at a party, and it was pretty fun. This is a label we did recently for Wayward when we rebranded them, and it's got some subtle embossing on the big Krupnik text there and on the word honey. But it's also got the knockouts, which is something I mentioned before. You don't see a lot of knockouts in beer because they're really expensive. They're to get those done. You're either working with a massive printing company that has a machine to pick out all those little hexagons, or you're paying someone to actually do that. But it can be so effective, and I'm a big fan of it when used well. Just wanted to put these driftwood ones up here again to look at the embossing on them instead of the die cut on these ones. Like I said before, I find distilleries understand the importance of the tactile experience a lot better than breweries. They know how to connect with consumers on a tactile level, and I urge more breweries to think about that. One of the challenges that we've seen with the massive switch over to cans in the brewing industry to become the default packaging format is that it's more challenging to effectively convey the value of a really premium product. Trying to dress up a can just doesn't seem to be as easy as dressing up a bottle was. With a bottle, you could wax dip it or put foil over a crown, like a cork and cage. You could put a little paper cap strap over the top, that sort of thing. None of those options are really available with cans. And one of those solutions I'm starting to see pop up a bit is single use boxes for single can boxes for really premium, expensive beers. I think it's just a solution that some breweries have come to in a way to solve this problem. But I think that more people should spend a little bit more time trying to play with all the various embellishments and stocks and whatnot on the actual labels of the cans, rather than defaulting to a secondary packaging, just because the expense on that has got to be killing these guys. Yep.
All right, so moving on here, this is the infamous glitter project here. So when I go about just new, interesting, different things, there's like a few different ways we can just find labels that we've never seen on the market before. So in this case, I decided that I wanted to see if it's possible to do glitter outside of just like holographic and have it be like a raised varnish. So I just hunted down suppliers across North America, finding out do they have glitter, can I get it, can we apply it in-house? Sure enough, found it, could do it. I brought it to a few designers. So if you've got a stomach for a bit of risk and you're willing to take on a project that is going to look amazing, or it might blow up and it's something that we're just going to have to work through, definitely talk to me, see what we're working on, because we love just bringing things to market that I've personally never seen on beverage labels and on labeling in general. So this one was really fun. 3 years later, my production team has not forgiven me. Is there gold glitter still in our equipment? Yes, sometimes. So if you ever get like a little speck of glitter in one of your labels, that's my fault. All the mothers of the company knew that this was a terrible idea, but we saw it through anyway. And just on that note, there's so many things. There's things that I'm working on right now, beta testing. It's a matter of, if you have an idea of something that you don't know it's possible, talk to us about it, because we like to see if we can make it possible. If there's a way to make that happen, if you've got some crazy far out idea, you're like, I don't think this is ever going to happen. Talk to us about it, because it's possible. We will search down suppliers. We will search down different techniques. I will bother my production team to no end to try another project for me. And then there's other things that I come up with that I take cues from what's happening in social media, what's happening in consumer trends, what is really popular, what gets a really big hit. And then I find out, can we do that on a label? What does that look like? Can we apply it? Is it going to appeal particularly to the beer industry? Because you guys are a lot more amenable to our shenanigans than some of the other industries that are like, well, we're stuck with this forever now. So if you're interested, if you just want to see what's available, definitely reach out to us because we love a fun project and we really like you guys being able to stand out and put that social media push behind it of things that are really cool. Like on that glitter one, I think Cabin's tap room was sold out of those cans in 24 hours. So they'll move. People had glitter all over their hands and all their houses. However, they bought it. And sometimes that's like what you want to get it out the door into people's hands. And that's what we want to help you with. So on that note, that brings us to the end.